Dr. Jean Cipher is joining me now on Making a Difference. We're here at the Rowena Wildlife Clinic, and Dr. Cipher, or Jean, as you like to be called, you're a casual person. You started back in 2000. What was your passion at the time? What got this whole clinic started?
Well, I'd been interested in rehab for quite a few years before that, and even before vet school. And to tell you the truth, I think people have been doing wildlife rehab since before we domesticated animals. I honestly think it's just part of human nature to be interested in other species. And I think during vet school, I kept wondering, here we are learning about dogs and cats and horses and cows, and that's such a small segment of all the life on the planet. How come vets aren't reaching a little further? And rehab has never been a very glamorous thing. It's always been, little old ladies taking care of little songbirds in their backyards, and which is fine. Honestly, that's how the Audubon Society started, with little old ladies and young children being upset about birds being decimated for the feather trade. And look what that's grown into. And I think rehab has the potential to do that, to kind of form a link between humans and the animals in their community. And even though we've been doing it for all these years, it's probably only since, I'd say, the 70s that veterinarians and rehabbers have been talking about it a little bit. Even though it's on the hierarchy of importance of things, it's still way down there. It's growing slowly, and at some point, I like to think that we'll be ready and we'll know how to treat some very endangered species of wildlife when it really needs to be treated. We're just here for the people who pick up these animals and take time out of their day and really care about the injured stuff that they're finding. And I think when you interact with an animal like that, it sort of becomes part of your extended family. It's a little bit like the way we feel about our pets. Most of the people who take their pets to the vet say that their pets are family. And it's not that wildlife should be like pets or that wildlife should particularly be family, but it's a bond, and it makes you care about them, and it makes you kind of want to understand what makes them tick.
I wanted to talk about that a little bit. Human activity is usually the leading cause of animal injury. What kind of things, if we're educated a little bit more, we might start learning what to change. What kind of things do you come across mostly that is hurting the animals that we do?
I think our number one injury is collision of some sort. So either hit by car, or falling out of nests in a windstorm, or running into windows, those kind of things. And it sounds really silly, but being a careful driver, I think that would probably save more animals than anything else. And it's particularly the animals in the evening and at night. The cats and dogs are definitely a problem, especially the younger animals. I think most cats and dogs kind of come to their senses when they're maybe anywhere between 2 and 6 years old. They start to retire, but the young cats and dogs that are big hunters, if there's anything you can do to slow them down. With cats, I'd maybe trim their nails.
So, Jean, I know you wanted to give credit to some of the other veterinarians that work in tandem with you to make this all happen. Who are some of those people?
Well, Susan Kerr is an enormous help. She's the veterinarian that works with the WSU County Extension and 4-H up in Goldendale. And she works all the time. I don't know if she sleeps, but so she works for County Extension during the week, and on the weekends and in her evenings she does a lot of the spaying and neutering of ferals up there, as well as some of the sort of low-income and neglected dogs and cats up there, which there are quite a few. And then Cindy Anderson, she was just a wonderful vet over in White Salmon, and she got interested because of the feral cat, and she'd come over here and also would work with Carmen at CatLink and do spays and neuters 2 or 3 times a week, all day long. And she contributed a lot financially to the clinic. She's helped quite a bit. She passed away about a year ago, suddenly got liver cancer and died. So that was a huge loss. And then Carmen at CatLink, they really kept us going the first few years when we didn't have any external source of funding. She would always do a lot of grooming and have me do a lot of spays and neuters and pay us $20 a cat just to do it. So it helped feed the wildlife those first few years. Now the Kinsman Foundation has helped out quite a bit. They funded most of our cages, and the Kenneth Scott Trust is starting to kick in with some money for the student interns. And then the Newberger family, with the Community Foundation down in St. Croix, and now at the Gorge Community Foundation, they've contributed an enormous amount of money both to our place and to a friend's place down in Astoria.
You seem cool as a cucumber most of the times when you're up here, but I know it can't be too easy to deal with the constant cycle of life and death. How do you handle all that?
Well, fortunately, most of the animals, if they're not going to make it, they die within the first day or 1 to 3 days, and they've often been feeling so miserable, or you just weren't quite sure if they were going to make it. And if they died, they're probably a lot happier. But the ones that are difficult are the ones that you've been kind of coaxing along for a while, and you thought maybe they'd pull through, or the ones that we lose in surgery. That doesn't happen very often, but I think those are the hardest because you tend to blame yourself, thinking, oh, I pushed the anesthesia a little too hard or something.
And you do have a fair amount of birds that you rehabilitate, you aren't able to release again, and what do you do with those birds and animals?
Yeah, we probably wind up with maybe 3 or 4 a year that need to be placed. And to be honest, when I started this, when I applied for the permit, I swore left, right, that I was not going to keep any animals that couldn't be released, that I would just put them out of their misery. And I wrote that on the permit, and here I am eating crow, years later. Just because there are a few, like the golden eagle, that they're just so talkative and chatty and happy, and they feel like this is home, and those are the ones that they interact well with people, and I sort of feel like it's a benefit for people to have an animal like that that's happy and just enjoys being with people. So those are the ones that we tend to place in education programs. We're just so fortunate that the Discovery Center was willing to make that leap and start taking in some birds for an education
program. So you were instrumental
program.
in getting that started up with them.
Yes, in fact, I was on the internet late one night trying to figure out how to approach them, and they had an email address for Carmen, I think it was Carmen Jean, in charge of acquisitions.
And you're like, okay.
Yes, how about acquiring a bald eagle? And so I was very surprised and happy that she responded.
Well, thank you so much, and stay with us. We'll be back in just a minute with a look at some of Dr. Seifer's educational birds that have gone on to serve a purpose at the Columbia Gorge Discovery Center.